For decades, Johnny Carson hosted one of the most popular late-night television programs in America. Making him laugh and getting an invitation to sit on his famous guest couch was a major goal for many comedians, but not everyone survived the intense pressure of his stage. This is the top 8 comedians who failed Johnny Carson ultimate test. Number 1. The prop comedy disaster of Gallagher. During the 1980s, Gallagher was a highly successful and widely recognized comedian in the country. He sold out massive arenas and became famous for his highly physical routine, specifically his signature act of smashing watermelons and various food items with a massive wooden hammer. He built a highly profitable television career out of creating an enormous physical mess on stage and providing a very visual form of entertainment for his dedicated fans. However, despite his massive national popularity and undeniable ticket sales, he completely failed to impress the host of the most popular late-night program. Johnny Carson was a man who valued sharp intellect, quick conversational timing, and brilliant wordplay. He possessed a very traditional sense of humor and firmly disliked prop comedy. Carson believed that relying on physical objects, silly costumes, or smashing food to get a reaction was a very cheap and unrefined form of entertainment. When Gallagher finally managed to appear on the popular late-night stage, he completely failed Carson's ultimate test. The television host sat behind his desk with a remarkably cold, unimpressed expression while the comedian performed his highly energetic physical routine. Carson firmly refused to validate the performance with genuine laughter, and he absolutely refused to invite the comedian over to the guest chair for a respectful interview. For Carson, a comedian who needed a giant hammer to make an audience laugh simply did not belong on his prestigious television program. Despite becoming a massive millionaire and a household name, Gallagher never received the professional validation he wanted from the late-night host, proving that no amount of stadium tickets could buy Johnny Carson's professional respect. Number 2. The controlling antics of Milton Berle. During the early days of television broadcasting in the 1950s, Milton Berle was considered a highly successful comedian. He was used to being the absolute center of attention and having total authority over his productions. However, when he was invited to appear as a guest on Johnny Carson's popular late-night program, he completely failed to understand that he was no longer the man in charge. Berle had an incredibly aggressive, demanding, and deeply controlling personality that completely clashed with the relaxed atmosphere of the modern talk show. Instead of sitting down and engaging in a normal, respectful conversation with the host, Berle would immediately attempt to take over the entire studio. He would constantly interrupt Carson before he could finish a sentence, ignore the natural flow of the interview, and shockingly, he would even shout direct instructions to the studio camera operators during the live broadcast. He would loudly tell the crew exactly how to frame his face, where to position the studio lights, and exactly when to zoom in for his punchlines. Carson strongly disliked this deeply unprofessional behavior. The host valued a very smooth, comfortable, and conversational environment for his viewing audience. Having another comedian come onto his stage and arrogantly attempt to direct the television crew was seen as a massive sign of disrespect. Carson would often handle the situation by simply sitting back behind his wooden desk with a very cold, silent expression, purposely allowing Berle to look foolish and exhaust himself with his loud antics. Carson firmly believed that a genuinely talented entertainer did not need to desperately boss around a crew just to get a laugh. Berle failed the ultimate test of the guest chair because he brought outdated arrogance to a stage that required basic professional respect and natural social grace. His overwhelming need for absolute control made him a highly exhausting guest who never truly earned the genuine respect of the late-night host. Number 3. The exhausting chaos of Jerry Lewis. Jerry Lewis was a famous comedic actor who built a massive career on being incredibly loud, completely unpredictable, and highly chaotic. He was widely known for making strange noises, pulling exaggerated facial expressions, and performing energetic physical comedy routines on the big screen. While this style made him a wealthy movie star, it was an absolute disaster when he attempted to sit down for a civilized conversation on Johnny Carson's late-night program. Carson was a sophisticated man who appreciated subtle humor, clever wordplay, and intelligent observations. He was a master of the calm reaction and the perfectly timed silent stare. When Lewis appeared on the popular broadcast, he brought an exhausting and deeply frantic level of energy that completely destroyed the peaceful dynamic of the television studio. Instead of engaging in a respectful interview, Lewis would frequently jump out of his guest chair, randomly grab items off the host's wooden desk, and constantly interrupt the natural conversation with loud, childish noises. Carson found this specific behavior deeply annoying and highly unprofessional for a grown adult working in the entertainment industry. The host simply wanted to have an interesting and engaging discussion, but Lewis was entirely incapable of sitting still and acting like a normal person for more than a few minutes. The movie star desperately needed to be the absolute center of attention at every single second, and he used his highly exaggerated physical antics to ensure that no one else in the room could speak. Carson would often sit completely still and watch Lewis with a very tired, unimpressed facial expression, clearly demonstrating to the national audience that he found the chaotic behavior to be tedious rather than genuinely amusing. Lewis failed the ultimate television test because he stubbornly refused to adapt his loud movie persona to the conversational format of the late-night stage. He proved that having massive box office success does not automatically give a person the basic social intelligence required to be a respectful guest. Number 4. The bizarre anti-comedy of Andy Kaufman. During the late 1970s, Andy Kaufman emerged as a highly unique and incredibly unusual performer in the television industry. He did not consider himself a traditional comedian and openly refused to tell standard jokes or deliver normal punchlines to a viewing audience. Instead, he specialized in a highly bizarre form of performance art that was specifically designed to confuse people rather than make them laugh. When he was invited to perform on Johnny Carson's popular late-night program, his deeply strange behavior completely clashed with the traditional format of the television broadcast. Carson built his massive success on clear communication, sharp conversational rhythm, and engaging, relatable stories. Kaufman deliberately destroyed all of those elements. During his appearances on the television stage, he would engage in highly uncomfortable behavior, such as reading an entire book aloud in a fake foreign accent, weeping uncontrollably for no obvious reason, or simply staring at the host with a completely blank facial expression in total silence. He absolutely refused to participate in a normal professional interview or answer basic questions about his career. While some viewers found this bizarre behavior highly interesting, it was deeply frustrating for a traditional television host who needed to maintain a smooth and entertaining broadcast. Carson would often sit behind his wooden desk, looking genuinely confused and highly annoyed by the long stretches of silent television. He realized that the unusual performer had absolutely no intention of cooperating with the basic rules of the conversational format. Kaufman completely failed the ultimate test of the guest chair because he intentionally prioritized his own strange performance art over the comfort of the audience and the necessary structure of the television program. He proved that being highly unusual does not automatically make a person a successful talk show guest, especially when they completely refuse to participate in a genuine human conversation. Number 5. The combative attitude of Charles Grodin. During the 1970s and 80s, Charles Grodin became a highly successful comedic actor who was widely known for his deeply dry sense of humor and his very strict deadpan delivery on the big screen. When he began appearing on Johnny Carson's popular late-night television broadcast, he made a very unusual and controversial choice that completely disrupted the normal format of the show. Instead of acting like a grateful and highly entertaining guest, Grodin deliberately decided to adopt a combative and deeply defensive persona during his interviews. Whenever the host asked him a basic, friendly question about his career or his personal life, the comedic actor would instantly act completely offended and deeply insulted. He would aggressively question the television host, refuse to answer simple questions, and complain loudly to the studio audience that the interview was a complete waste of his valuable time. He completely rejected the traditional television dynamic, where the host is the clear authority figure and the guest is simply there to promote a new project. Carson was a highly experienced professional who strongly valued smooth, easy conversations that made his viewing audience feel entirely comfortable before going to sleep. Having a guest actively fight with him, constantly challenge his television authority, and act deeply unhappy to be sitting on the famous guest couch created an incredibly tense and highly awkward atmosphere in the studio. He would frequently refuse to even mention the specific comedy film he was supposed to be promoting, which deeply annoyed the film studio executives. Many television viewers genuinely believed that the two men completely hated each other in real life, and they frequently wrote angry letters to the television network complaining about the uncomfortable interviews. Carson would handle the difficult situation by simply staring at him with a highly critical, completely silent expression, deliberately letting the actor trap himself in his own uncomfortable attitude. Grodin failed the traditional test of being a charming celebrity on the late-night stage because he brought a difficult and argumentative attitude to a comfortable television show, creating massive confusion rather than genuine laughter. Number 6. The constant impressions of Rich Little. During the 1970s and 80s, Rich Little was an incredibly famous entertainer who built a massive television career exclusively by performing highly accurate vocal impressions of famous politicians and popular movie stars. Because of his massive national popularity, he became a very frequent guest on Johnny Carson's highly successful late-night broadcast. He was even trusted to be a substitute host when the regular presenter took a vacation. However, despite his massive early success, Little eventually failed the ultimate test of the television guest because he completely lacked the ability to have a genuine, unscripted human conversation. Carson strongly valued authentic interactions and wanted his guests to simply be themselves when they sat down for a casual interview. Little, however, was entirely incapable of turning off his performance. Whenever Carson asked him a completely normal question about his personal life or his family, the comedian would immediately avoid answering the question and instead launch directly into a loudly rehearsed vocal impression of a famous political figure or a massive Hollywood star. While this specific talent was highly entertaining for a few minutes, it quickly became deeply exhausting for a television host who simply wanted to speak with a real human being. Carson would frequently become visibly annoyed when he realized that Little was using his famous voices as a defensive shield to avoid revealing his true personality to the viewing audience. The television host would often sit behind his wooden desk with a very cold, completely silent expression, while the comedian desperately performed his vocal tricks, clearly demonstrating his professional frustration. Furthermore, when Little served as the substitute host, he became highly arrogant and completely forgot that he was merely a temporary employee, not the permanent star of the television network. Carson strongly disliked this sudden shift in attitude and eventually decided to quietly remove the famous impressionist from the program. Little completely failed the traditional late-night test because he proved that a performer can perfectly copy 1,000 different voices but still completely lack the natural charm and genuine personality required to succeed in a normal conversation. Number 7. The physical desperation of Charlie Callas. During the 1970s and early 1980s, Charlie Callas was a highly recognizable comedian who built a successful career out of making rapid noises and highly exaggerated facial expressions. Because of his frantic and unpredictable energy, he was invited to appear on Johnny Carson's popular late-night television program dozens of times. He was initially a reliable guest who could easily fill a few minutes of television with his unusual sounds and rapid stories. However, a major shift occurred during a disastrous appearance in 1982 when Callas completely failed the ultimate test of knowing exactly when to stop and gracefully accept a bad performance. During this specific television broadcast, the comedian was performing his standard stand-up routine, but the studio audience was completely unresponsive. Instead of accepting that his material was simply not working that evening, Callas became incredibly desperate. When he finally walked over to the guest chair to sit down next to the highly experienced host, the uncomfortable silence in the room continued. Carson attempted to help the struggling comedian by asking him a few easy questions, but Callas was visibly panicking. In a totally unexpected and deeply unprofessional move, the desperate comedian leaned over and physically shoved the television host in a bizarre attempt to force physical comedy into the dying interview. Carson strongly disliked being touched in such an aggressive and completely unscripted manner on his own television stage. The host instantly lost all patience, staring at the comedian with a remarkably cold and completely silent expression of total disapproval. The sudden physical contact crossed a major professional boundary. Following this highly uncomfortable television moment, the host completely refused to ever invite the comedian back to the program. Callas failed the most important rule of the guest chair by allowing his own nervous panic to destroy his basic professional respect. Number 8. The hand gesture of Jackie Mason. During the middle of the 1960s, Jackie Mason was a highly successful stand-up comedian who was rapidly gaining massive national attention. He was invited to perform his comedy routine on the popular late-night broadcast hosted by Johnny Carson, which was the most important television stage in the country. At the time, during one specific live broadcast, the television program was running very late because a major political speech had taken up too much time on the national network. As a result, the television producers strictly told the comedian that his normal comedy routine had to be significantly shortened. While Mason was actively performing his jokes for the studio audience, Carson sat off to the side and began using his fingers to visually signal the comedian to completely stop his performance and wrap up the segment. Mason was deeply annoyed by the constant physical interruptions from the host and felt highly disrespected as a performing artist. In a moment of extreme frustration, the comedian made a highly inappropriate physical hand gesture directly toward the television host on live national television. Carson was absolutely furious about the deeply unprofessional and highly insulting physical movement. He strongly believed that the television studio was his personal workplace, and he demanded absolute respect from every single guest who appeared on his stage. The host completely refused to accept any excuses or apologies, and he instantly banned the comedian from the highly popular television program for over a decade. The massive public fallout from the live television incident completely derailed the comedian's rapidly growing career for many years. Entertainment executives across the country completely refused to hire him because he had publicly insulted a highly respected television host. Mason failed the ultimate test by allowing his temporary anger to destroy his professional relationship with the late-night network. he proved that a single moment of highly unprofessional behavior on a major television broadcast can instantly erase years of hard work in the comedy industry. Did you ever find any of these specific comedians genuinely funny, or do you think the television host was completely right to reject their unusual comedy styles? Please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more true television history.